The makeup looks that are going to age like milk. Okay, I saw a fashion version of this and instantly I was like, yeah, we need to do a beauty version. But the difference is with this style of video, the fashion version is a bit more cautionary. Like, hey, before you buy this, let's think about the future. Will you still want to wear this a year from now? When it comes to makeup, it's much lower risk. You know, for the most part, you're just choosing new ways to use products that you already have. You're playing with different techniques. It's pretty harmless. And sure, maybe sometimes I look back on my 2016 brows and I laugh, but like that's kind of the fun of it. So I'm more so coming at this video from the angle of what are the trends that I think we're really going to associate with this period of time, 2025 and like kind of the surrounding years. I've been in this mindset a lot because I've been doing my yearly lore series breaking down what happened every single year in beauty. And there's obviously certain makeup techniques that we just associate with different times. So I've been sitting with the question of like, what will we look back on as 2025 makeup? And there are a lot of looks and techniques right now that I don't necessarily think are timeless. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean we're going to think of these as very 2025. So let's talk about what those are. Okay, first of all, you can probably hear it. I am sick. I'm still sick. In my last video, it's so funny. There were a couple sections where I did a voiceover to like add some additional context and I was getting so many comments of like, who was that other person? It was me. I've just lost my voice. Okay, but the first one on my list is the rounded Cupid's bow. I wanted to start with this one because it's kind of my personal mission to kill this trend. And actually, maybe in solidarity, I should have made my Cupid's bow extra pointy today. But for a few years now, it has been very much in style to just draw right over it as if it doesn't exist, or to try to reshape it from being angular to being rounded. And I think a lot of that has come from this lip filler era that we've been in for a while now, and everyone trying to achieve the look of very, very full lips. Because truthfully, rounding it out does create that illusion, but I do think it's a technique we will look back on and think, oh, why were we doing that? Especially because it's a look that translates well in 2D, but not necessarily in 3D. And I can say this as someone with a very sharp, pointy Cupid's bow. Like if I really do it and I turn to the side, you're like, wait, what's going on? But that's kind of my personal mission, to get the pointy Cupid's bow people to embrace them. The next one on my list is probably the one that I feel the most strongly about, that we are going to look back and think, wow, that was so textbook 2025. And it's related to eyebrows, but it is not the brow trend that you think I'm going to say. But before I tell you, a quick word from today's sponsor. I'm so excited to be working with Quince again today. I know you're probably familiar with them, but in case you're not, they're an online retailer that sells just about everything while prioritizing quality and also affordability. You probably know they have items for all over your home, like this new organic cotton coverlet on my bed that I have been loving. They're also very well known for their clothing, like this new featherless quilted long puffer that I picked up ahead of winter. But I don't think a lot of people realize that Quince also has a full beauty section, including so many perfumes. Bois de Santal, which I will say is very similar to a perfume that I love for almost $300, but this is $50. Also in the fragrance category, their candles are incredible as well. I always love like a bougie niche fragrance in my candles. But in addition to that, they sell other beauty brands as well, like True Botanicals. I picked up their Chebula serum, which I have used up before, but this is quite a splurge, so I'd been kind of avoiding picking it up again. But Quince has a credit back program, so a lot of the products you purchase on their website, they will give you credits for future times that you shop, making a lot of these beauty products more affordable to purchase through Quince than from the actual brand themselves. Okay, and last thing, these earrings I'm so excited about because I just got my second holes re-pierced, and I'm telling you what, the second it is safe for me to change the jewelry out, these are going right in. I have very sensitive ears, so I can only wear like very high quality metals, so I'm really excited that Quince has these at such an approachable price point. They offer free shipping, 365-day returns, and I will have everything linked below. But let's go ahead and jump back into it. Okay, the brow one, I know you're waiting for me to say feather brows, but I actually think the feather brow lived and is like fading away, and it was more of an early 2020s trend. I feel like it kind of peaked and has started to lose popularity for sure. Certainly I still see that style of brow, but I don't think it's at its height the way it was. I think it's a trend that I associate more with like 2022, 2023. And instead, the new brow look that people have seemed to move on to is the straight brow and or the tailless eyebrow. Okay, the most exaggerated version of this that I can share is Ariana Grande. Now, I'm not coming for her. I'm a stan. I love Ariana. But she is the textbook definition of this because not only are her eyebrows so straight, they literally have no tail. Like the tail is non-existent. Hers is certainly the most exaggerated version. It gives her this very cartoon-like look. It kind of perpetually looks like she's pouting or like this emoji. And I think that's part of the reason this brow style is really popular right now, because it gives that lifted look that a lot of people have been trying to achieve. And that's generally the reason I hear people talk about loving the straight or kind of tailless brow, because it gives the lift. And for a few years now, we've seen people recommend shaving off the outside of your eyebrow. I just think generally we've seen eyebrows get shorter. Like eyebrows are very short currently compared to what we've seen, you know, decades ago. And to be honest, I don't think it's a bad thing. I actually like the way it looks a lot of times. Like I think of the group Cat's Eye. Every member in that group I feel like has a perfect example of the like straight tailless brow that I'm talking about. And they look amazing. Like I think it looks really, really good. There's no shade from me on this brow. But I do think it's a look that we will associate with this time. Like when we think back of like, what are the characteristics of a 2025 makeup look? It'll be like, you got to do your brow like this, you know? It's funny too, because we've seen the thinner brow come back in popularity, and there's been some mixed feedback on it. I love a thin brow personally, but what's interesting is like the modern day version of it that I've seen is this version with no tail, whereas like the historically accurate, I'm kind of being jokey here, but the more historically accurate version is actually very rounded. Like the way people were doing that thin brow in the late 90s, early 2000s, it had a dramatic arch, and if not an arch, it had a really defined point. Like it was kind of a sharp eyebrow at its peak. And I even made a TikTok a few months ago kind of joking about how much I missed eyebrow tails. I'm like, no one has a tail on their eyebrows anymore, because we're all being told like you should shave off that tail. Again, I think it can look really nice. For me, I've just accepted that my face shape would not carry that super well. It would look a little harsh on my face personally, so I will not be participating, but it is a trend I like. I just think it's one that like we'll associate with this time. Ooh, a nail one. And this is another one I loved. If I'm being honest, pretty much everything on my list, I actually really like these trends, except for maybe the rounded out Cupid's bow, but that's because I have personal beef with that. But most of these I really like there's no shade from me, but I think it's very of the time, of the now. But it is the every nail a different design trend. I really like this look. I think it's fun. I just across the board like things that don't match. Like even in my home, I don't want a set. I want like a bunch of random things that I have like brought into my life one by one that tell a story. And I feel like the nails are a fun version of that when each nail is a completely different design. It feels like a grown-up version of what I would do as a kid when I would paint like every fingernail a different color. I feel like even that look has gotten more popular recently, but there's something about this nail design that again, I think we can kind of pinpoint in time. Like if 2035 rolls around and I'm still doing the lore series and I do a 2025 version, when we get to the nail section, we're going to talk about this nail trend. You know, the same way in the 2014 video we did, I talked about the accent nail. Do you remember that? I used to love an accent nail. But again, it's one of those trends like you associate it with a very specific point of time, you know? It wasn't timeless, we can say that much. Ooh, a topper shadow. I love a topper shadow. I think this is one of the like best trends of the moment right now, something that I just drool over. I love the look of an eyeshadow that has a very transparent base and it's just the sparkles on top. And to some extent, I think that is timeless. I think it's something that's been around for a while. I think of the Urban Decay Moondust shadows. They're a big part of the reason this is so popular right now, like the resurgence of that product, like going re-viral recently, even though that product has been around forever. So I'm not saying this is a new eyeshadow style, but the popularity of it for the last couple years has been at an all-time high. And I do think it's very now, you know what I mean? I don't necessarily think 5-6 years from now that'll still be like the shadow style that every brand is trying to come out with and everyone's wanting to use. You know, there are a lot of different finishes when it comes to sparkly shadows. It could be metallic, it could be more satin, it could be more of this topper formula. And even beyond that, it could be like a duochrome, a multichrome. Like there are a lot of finishes for an eyeshadow, but I think something that really defines this point in time is that topper shadow and the popularity of it. I love a topper shadow, like I said. I'm always looking for a shadow like that. And even if it's not actually formulated to be like that, I try to kind of manipulate it to get that look. Like I'll take just a little bit of a regular shadow and kind of like stipple it on really lightly with my finger so I get that scattered effect, because I just really love that look. But it's another one that's like very now. One that I think is starting to fade away a little bit was maybe a bit more associated with the early 2020s. Also, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, should I just be saying the 20s? It sounds really weird to say the 20s because in my head that's 1920s, but I think it would also be accurate for me to say the 20s and be referring to the 2020s, but I don't know, my brain can't catch up with that. Anyways, this one, I think it was even more prominent in the early 20s, but it's something I'm calling visible blush, because when you look at so many other eras of makeup, the blush was very blended with the rest of the look. There were definitely other times in history that like a bold blush was prominent, but when I think of makeup looks in so many other eras, the blush is just very well blended with the rest of the cheek. It's not super noticeable where the blush starts, where the blush ends. It's just kind of one look, and the blush is by no means the focal point of the look. But for the last couple years, it's really been about the blush. The eyes have remained really understated. Even the lip is pretty simple. We weren't wearing many bold lips. And really the star of the show was this bright pink blush look. And even as bubblegum pink blush has become less popular and we're seeing other tones begin to replace it, what is still remaining is the very punchy, bold look of the blush. Like the blush is very visible on the cheek. It is the star of the look. It's a look I will definitely associate with this point in time, like that really bright poppy blush. And even the placement of it for the last few years, I think it was really popular to keep it way up here, whereas other times in history, blush placement has moved to different areas of the face, but there's something about that blush that I'll associate more probably with like 2022, 2023. A skincare one is sticker pimple patches. Definitely not exclusive to 2025. This really started with the brand Starface, which was founded in 2019. So just generally speaking, I feel like this has been popular in the 20s. There we go again, the 20s. This is another one I think will live in this time period. I don't know if 10 years from now we'll still be wearing like really visible stickers as pimple patches, even though I really love this. And I love Starface as a concept. I think it's so cool that they've made pimple patches like a fun, trendy accessory to wear. As someone who has struggled with acne on and off my whole life, I've talked actually in many videos about how much I love Starface and the concept of the brand and like what they've done for acne and acne acceptance. So I would love if this was still just always a thing, but I do kind of think it's something we'll look back on and be like, oh, how cute. And see, again, I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean it in an endearing way. Like, oh, remember when we were wearing all the stickers on our face? Okay, this one I actually want to pose as a question because I had it on my list. I took it off. I added it back on. I took it off. I've been back and forth. I'm like, this might just sit with this time or it might become the new way that we do makeup. And it's hard to say, but I'm kind of leaning towards it's a little bit more now. And that's the pink under eye powder trend. The reason I kept taking this one off my list was because for a while I started thinking, this might just be the way people do their under eyes now. So many brands have come out with a pink setting powder, and when done right, it doesn't really present as pink on your face. It just really brightens and kind of blends into the blush. But I will also say, as that like bright pink shade of blush is becoming slightly less popular than it was, it does make me wonder, will people still want to do this pink under eye if they're not also pairing it with that pink blush? Again, I was kind of like back and forth of like, is it now or will we always do our makeup like this? Then I started thinking about when the banana powder under eye was really big, around like 2016 at the peak of contouring. And the banana powder was really advertised as a similar concept where it would add so much brightness to the under eye, do some color correcting, and everybody had to have a banana under eye powder. And when I think of that, that's kind of fallen out of popularity as well. We don't see as many brands launching them. I mean, we still see a few, but not to the peak that we had in 2016. So I do feel like maybe this is just going to be kind of trendy in the moment, and then as we go on, people won't reach for their tinted under eye powders as much, but it's hard to say. This one I could see going either way. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. And even though in the beginning I was saying it's a little different from the fashion version of this video where it is a bit more cautionary of like, hey, before you buy this clothing item, think about if you'll be using it in a year. But there are a few categories like the pink under eye powder, for example, where that same philosophy definitely carries over to beauty of like, hey, maybe you won't still be obsessed with pink powder a year from now. So maybe you don't need to buy every single pink powder on the market. Maybe you enjoy the one that you have, because there's a possibility you won't be doing your makeup like this in a couple years. And even though obviously we can still do things even when they're less popular and not trendy, I do think these type of thought exercises can help make us better consumers by kind of thinking a few steps ahead of like, will I still be wanting to do this and use these products years down the road? So I hope you liked this one. Thank you so much to Quince for sponsoring this video, and I will go ahead and see you in my next one. Bye!